Welcome into UGA Football Live with JC Shelton, where the dogs come to talk. Hey guys, welcome in Dog Nation, UGA Football Live with JC Shelton, with another special guest, his first-time guest, and that is Damien Gary, former Georgia receiver and punt returner extraordinaire, really. And I'm excited to meet Damien for the first time and get a chance to talk to him about his awesome career in Athens. Damien, first off, how are you doing, and what are you up to now?
I'm doing great, man. I'm actually back in coaching. I'm at my local high school in Athens, Georgia. It's Clark Central High School, where I am alum from. I played ball at Clark Central, so I'm back at home.
That's awesome. What position group are you teaching there?
I'm the offensive coordinator, so I kind of do a little bit of teaching of everything on the offense. Obviously, I do some wide receiver stuff as well, running backs, and again, just kind of go where I need to fit in at that moment.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's really awesome. So you guys in Athens, you can catch Damien at some Clark Central games coming up, I'm sure this fall. Damien, what's something interesting about your story is your recruiting journey? And I read a little bit about that today, and it was talking about Florida State. I know there's one of those teams in the mix for you, and you grew up watching. How did that recruiting process turn out for you? Obviously, we know where you ended up, but how did that come to be?
Like you said, Florida State was pretty much my dream school. I've just always kind of admired, their kind of offense. They was kind of ahead of the times back then. They had the kind of running gun, and they put out a lot of receivers. And Peter Warrick, I'm pretty sure, was everybody's legendary kind of receiver growing up. So Peter Warrick was kind of one of the guys that I really liked and tried to emulate, a lot growing up. So my first ever recruiting interest and letter at the time was from Florida State, kind of finishing up my sophomore year. But kind of through all of that, obviously I'm from Athens. My whole family is our dogs. Even before I kind of really knew what Dog Nation was, they were all in red and black. Like my family still has season tickets. Before I went to Georgia, after I went to Georgia, going to Jacksonville every year, that's still a thing. Like they did, regardless of, probably would have still did it regardless of where I went. So like I said, my family's been dogs forever. I've been a dog forever. I actually had an opportunity to play between the hedges as, a member of the YMCA, like local YMCA football team before the game started. So that was kind of a big deal for me back in the day. So back to my recruiting journey, I always wanted to go to Florida State, had some injuries in high school. So recruiting kind of, took a turn a little bit, but, throughout all that, Georgia was always there no matter what. Jim Donnan, who was, my head coach who recruited me, he was always in my corner. He was always after me, no matter what happened. So it kind of came down to, I had Georgia, had Florida State, Virginia, a couple other SEC schools, but like I said, Georgia remained loyal, and it's kind of came down to be a no-brainer. I'm at home, I'm familiar, with everything here, and so that really was a deciding factor. I took one visit. I came to UGA the first recruiting weekend in December, and it was shut down from then on out. I became a dog and never looked back.
Yeah, no, it makes sense with Florida State too around that time. That's something that
Right,
stands out
right,
to me when you
right.
were mentioning that. I mean, that team around that time was the best in college football,
It
right?
was. It
So
was, and
watching
then
them, yeah.
it was cool. Even though I didn't go to Florida State, we eventually got Coach Rick. So in a sense, Florida State kind of came to me. So we actually got a chance to be a part of that same system. A couple years down the road after I initially signed with Georgia.
Yeah, did you have any correspondence with Mark Richt when he was at Florida State in your recruitment?
I did. I had him and obviously Coach Bowden. Had a great relationship with those guys. So we did have some familiarity as well, which was good. So I was kind of in a win-win situation.
Yeah, so it sounds like it worked out perfectly, and you went on to have possibly the greatest punt returning career in Georgia history. Let's mention these stats here. We got 114 returns, 1,253 total yards, which both leads Georgia in all-time stats there. And then you added, I think, 1,600, almost over 1,600 receiving yards in your career at Georgia too.
Right,
Um,
right.
Very impressive, dude. Mention something. I've talked to a couple of punt returners on this show. Brandon Boykin was one of them, and he was one of those
Right.
all-time Georgia guys too. And I'm really interested in just the mindset of a punt returner because, me being at the small level I was in high school, I did catch a punt here and there. Nerve-wracking, just so
Oh yeah.
nerve-wracking, man. I mean,
Oh
standing back
yeah.
there before the ball is snapped, it's like I am the only one in the stadium. It feels like you're the only one in the stadium almost, right? Because that's the only
Right.
time in football that you're, 40, 50 yards from your teammates, right?
Right.
Standing
Right.
alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So take me through your process if you can. What was that? What did you tell yourself? Did you, kind of create your mindset before you went back there for a punt? Or was it just, repetitions at that point and you were going to, you had everything all dialed up for yourself in the process? What was that like for you?
Well, I think definitely early on in my career, obviously it was, a lot nerve wracking. Being that I kind of by default kind of got the job as a freshman. So I did it, for quite a while. But I can always remember my uh, first couple of times being back there. It's a lonely feeling. You know, not many people necessarily know who the punt returner is unless you do something, like you fumble it, you drop it, or you do something. So it was kind of always good to not be known until we got pretty good on special teams. So after a while, we had a talented wide receiver group. Like we were loaded. So it was only one ball, so it was kind of hard, to kind of get some touches as much as you probably would like. But one thing that I took pride in was knowing that, hey, I'm the punt returner guy. I'm the only one back here. They got to kick it to me. So that in itself made me want to catch everything possible because I knew I was the guy that they were going to have to kick it to, whether they try to kick it away or not. I was going to try to make them kick it out of bounds because if it was on the line, I was going to find a way to try to field it and get a return out of it. So as I kind of got more and more reps, it really kind of became not as bad as it seemed being back there lonely. It was, I kind of got real comfortable back there, so I wasn't afraid. I trusted my teammates because we really took a lot of pride in that unit, and we felt like if we got a shot, any play or any time, we could take one back.
Yeah, no, I like that confidence. It feels like a lot of times in sports is creating that confidence, right? And playing off those repetitions you have in your past to really create that mindset of, I mean, I'm not going to mess up because I don't have an option to, and I'm the
Absolutely,
guy, right? It's
absolutely,
crazy how that works.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
and I'm a big kind of like schematic guy too. I like to hear what makes a good punt return.
Hmm.
What is something that stands out to you that maybe you guys got better at? You said you kind of improved in special teams. What was something, if you can think of it, from a punt return standpoint that you guys got better at schematically? Maybe whether that would be a certain blocking scheme, or maybe a place that you take a certain hash mark back. What was that for you?
I think the biggest thing was just pride. We had a lot of pride and not only punt returns, but just our special teams unit. We had a lot of starters on that special teams unit, and we took a lot of pride in knowing that we kind of got a reputation of being pretty decent at returning punts, and just being kind of that group that we could change the game. You know, I can remember I had the big return in Tennessee, and we were on the verge of probably getting ran out of Neyland Stadium, but we had a big punt return that kind of changed the course of that game. So, things like that, we felt like we could always keep ourselves in the game or change the course of the game if we needed to. So we took a lot of pride in being able to, just whatever it took, because we know it only took one play. So we took, and then, in practice, obviously that's where it started at, but we wanted teams to fear our unit, and that was just a pride that each one of us took into each week in each game.
Yeah. No, I feel like, special teams obviously gets overshadowed just because of the emphasis on offense and defense and how long they're on
Hmm.
the field. But you have coaches like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, and Kirby Smart and Nick Saban did that together, but they
Right.
play a lot of starters on that side of the
Hmm.
ball, and I think it almost helps that mindset of, we are good. We do have this, reputation of being good on our respective sides of the ball. So we're not going to take a play off on special teams. And that's how you get young players involved.
Right.
And it's how
Right.
you keep that game flow together and not put out maybe a bunch of players who haven't played many snaps that game, who aren't fresh, who aren't warmed up. You keep those guys
Right.
involved in the game. And I feel like that helps a lot. That's why one of the reasons Georgia is one of the best in special teams on a year-to-year basis under Kirby Smart, at least.
Right.
So
I
I
think
really
I
like
think
that.
it definitely sets the tone for sure. You could be this decorated person out of high school, or you could be, the leading rusher or leading whatever, and then you find yourself on special teams. So I think it sets the tone. It sends a message to everyone else that, hey, this guy's our best whatever, but you see him playing special teams. He's covering punts. He's on punt return. He's covering kicks. Like, he's doing all these things that, traditionally people might think is a playoff, but no, we got our number one guy out here, on special teams. So I think that definitely sets the tone, and it definitely, kind of sets a fire amongst the rest of the team and the unit, from a pride situation, and this is who we are situation.
Yeah, and not to go off on a rabbit trail, but that even makes me think about a specific game last season. I don't know if you're familiar, Georgia, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
This is a moment where Tennessee in the game was getting beat down, but they had still an opportunity, if they were to put together a few good drives to come back in this
Right.
game. And Georgia and Brett Thorson, the punter, hits an awesome punt, like a Madden style punt, goes
Mm-hmm.
out the
Mm-hmm.
1 yard line, but the guy down there diving for that to get it out of bounds was number one Rosemy Jackson, the starting
Right.
wide receiver in that
Right,
game.
right, right, right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, like I said, I think it's a tone setter. We're used to seeing this guy, make big catches for us, but yet he's making a big play on special teams. So it just goes to show that the amount of emphasis that they put on having the best 11, no matter what you do on offense or defense. We're talking about the best 11 on special teams, and if that's so big, you're the number one receiver, then you're going to be on special team if that's what the job requires.
yeah. And for you kids listening who want to play at the next level, that's a good way to get drafted too. That's a good way to get
Absolutely.
drafted because you look at New England and how many guys that they have signed on a yearly basis of big contracts just to play special teams, right?
Right, right,
Is this
right.
because that's a huge part of the game? Field position's huge. And, and
Absolutely.
and speaking of big games like Tennessee, Georgia, 2002 SEC championship,
Hmm.
right? That was, when Georgia came back on the map, so to speak,
Right,
right?
right.
Take me through that game, man. Take me to the lead up if you can. What was that like as a player? And then the game itself is something, sticks out to you. Love to hear it.
Well, I guess it had been probably 20 years or so since we had won our first, SEC championship. So, it was definitely a lot of pressure, but it was a lot of fun. Just kind of going through the course of the season, what we had accomplished, kind of the course that we were on. We had a lot of confidence, and we kind of like the team a couple years ago with the national championship having been won since 1980. We had a chip on our shoulder, like, hey, we tired of hearing this. So it was obviously a lot of confidence, but it was a kind of a hard hat mentality where we was going to go in and leave no doubt. And we came out, we had a block punt early, and it kind of just continued to just snowball from that point. We just kept building on that confidence and just kept making play after play. And I think this final score is maybe 30 something to 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make sure we left no doubt, and I think we pretty much proved that in that game.
Yeah. And that's what Georgia did against TCU. They left no doubt. They left no doubt.
Right.
That was amazing. But you mentioned there that first national title, and I was going to bring up something around this 2021 national title for Georgia. That, like you said, the first in 42 years, right, since
Mm-hmm.
1980. I was reading an article by Bulldog Illustrated. They had interviewed you 2021 before that championship game. And
Mm-hmm.
I scroll to the bottom and they ask you about, Clark Central and Georgia football. What do you see in the future for those teams? And you mentioned that you see championships in the future for both. You called it, man. You absolutely
I,
called it.
I mean, it was kind of a just a feeling I had. Those guys, had been kind of been right there so many times, and coaching and playing, you kind of gotta. It's a process. You lose close, and then eventually you kind of get over that hump. And I think we're right now where Georgia's over that hump. Getting that first national championship, and now we got the second one, and it's a strong chance that we got opportunity to three-peat. That's not unrealistic, especially in my eyes, but I know a lot of people's eyes to see what we got coming back and kind of the culture that we've built over, at Georgia, I think is realistic that the Dogs could three-peat. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens spring, with the quarterback situation. But I know whatever happened, it's going to be the right decision, no matter who's behind the center come fall. I'm excited to see, where this 2023 team is going to take us.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think you said it there, the culture, and not only the culture, but the experience. So these guys have done it. They've seen that they can do
Right.
it. They've seen what it takes to do it. The hours you put in, the mindset going into certain games where, like at Kent State, you play
Mm-hmm.
every year. Those types of games, you can't take a play off. You can, because everybody's gunning for you.
Right.
But they had that experience, and especially that 2021 championship when it wasn't expected, because that 2020 season was a mess when you think
Mm-hmm.
about it, right? The
Right.
talent that we had and the quarterback situation didn't help. And, games here and there that we just couldn't play right, a lot of turnovers, stuff like that. And then
Right.
2021, you put it all together with a former walk-on quarterback, and it just builds. And those guys had experience. They knew what it took, and they made last year look easy. Obviously,
Right.
you mentioned the quarterback battle this year. That's going to be it. I mean, I've written so much about that since dude, I'm almost getting tired of it. But there's, luckily there's new things to talk about around that with spring ball
Right.
now. And the things I'm hearing about Carson Beck have all been positive from players and coaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excited to see what happens there. And I think the talent that is around him, and having Mike Bobo as that one of the most premier college quarterback coaches beyond just an
Right. Right.
offensive coordinator, to
No doubt.
what he's been able to do with quarterbacks, I think really bodes well for Georgia in this situation, particularly. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that the chance is there from a culture standpoint, a talent standpoint, the recruiting classes that Kirby Smart has brought in on a consistent basis, but that experience too. A lot of these guys are still on this team from last year. They know, and several from the 2021 team, they know how to do it.
Right.
So can they
Right.
do it again? Everybody's going to be gunning for them, though. We'll see what happens, Damien. But really appreciate it, getting a chance to speak with you, and taking your time out. Dog Nation would love to hear from you, so I'm excited to get this one out.
Well, I sure appreciate the invite, and look forward to coming back soon and catching up with some dog football.
Yeah. Hey, let's do it again leading up to fall. How about that?
That sounds good. It's a deal.
Awesome. Go Dogs, guys.
Go Dogs.